Hi there, it's Calvin. In this video, I'm going to show you how to download and use the watercolor paper textures that I sell on Etsy and Gumroad. The first thing you need to do after you've made your purchase on either of those websites is download the instructions PDF. So after you've made your purchase on Etsy, you can usually find the download in your purchase history in your Etsy account, and it will also email you a link as well. If you have any trouble or any questions with your purchase on Etsy, you can message me right there and I can usually reply right away. And in this video, I'm going to use the kind of instructions PDF for the St. Petersburg texture, but the process here will apply to any of the paper textures that I sell. Now on the iPad, you cannot use the Apple Pencil to kind of read PDFs. That's because as soon as you touch the PDF, it's going to convert it into an image, thinking you want to draw on it. So make sure you put the Apple Pencil away and just use your finger. And all the PDFs basically have a link that goes to this video that you're watching now, and then a couple of kind of buttons here that are kind of download choices. Usually there's just two different download options. In this case, there are three, but on all of my paper texture instruction PDFs, I recommend using the MediaFire option. That's because it just, in my experience, it's simpler and it just has less hiccups. So to download the St. Petersburg paper texture, I'm just going to tap on the MediaFire button. It's going to ask me what I want to do with this. So I'm going to click open it. It's going to open up Safari and then go to the MediaFire website where the download is. It's going to ask you, do you want to download this? So I'm going to select download. And usually when you use Safari and you start a download like this, it'll start the download and you can see the progress up here, but it's going to take you back to whatever you were looking at previously on Safari. And this can be a little bit confusing, but don't worry, the download is okay and you can always check on it up here. And once it's finished, it looks like this. And to open it, I recommend going right to your file browser app. That's this little blue folder icon here. Now, when I open it, it's going to open up kind of like Safari does, basically to the last thing you were looking at. So in this case, it's opening up the PDF. So I'm going to click done to go out of the PDF. And then I can see the file browser as it normally is. Now, if your Safari is set up normally, it'll save downloads to the download folder on the iPad. So all you got to do is go to the On My iPads folder, look for your downloads folder, and this is where it'll save the texture. So in this case, I downloaded the St. Petersburg texture, and it's this file here. And to open it in Procreate, all I gotta do is just tap on it, and it'll send it right to Procreate and import it automatically. And once the file is finished importing, Procreate will kind of open up to the last thing you were working on. So to find the paper texture, you just have to go back to your gallery page, scroll to the very top, and it'll be the first one here on the top left. Now, all my paper textures are 4,000 pixels by 5,000 pixels. By default, it should be vertical like this, but if you want to do a horizontal painting, all you gotta do is just use 2 fingers and rotate the whole artwork, and this actually rotates the file itself. Now to start painting, I'm gonna open the layers panel, and you can see this group here. This is gonna have the name of the paper texture that you downloaded, and everything in that group is relating to the texture. You just have to make sure that whatever you paint is below that group. So we can select this default artwork, make a new layer above it, and then hide the default artwork. And we can basically paint whatever we want, create as many layers as we need. Just make sure they're below the paper texture group. And I'll make some quick brush strokes here as an example. Now, if I zoom in here, you can see that my brush strokes here obviously have a paper texture, but so does the white area around the artwork. And you can actually turn this off if you want to. And the way you do that is just open up the layers panel, open up the group here that has the watercolor paper texture in it. And there's always going to be a top layer called on-off paper background. If you just uncheck that, it's going to hide the texture from the white area, but it won't mess with your watercolor artwork. The next thing I want to explain is how to make more copies of the watercolor paper texture. So it's pretty easy. There are 2 ways. First, you can go to the gallery page, go to select the paper texture file, and then duplicate it. The other way to do that is to go back to your file browser and just re-import the paper texture file again, and it will just create a new instance. And you can see I've got 3 copies here. And the last thing I want to explain is how to handle an issue with limited layers. So depending on your iPad, you're not going to be able to create an infinite number of layers, and I can create quite a few, but eventually I'm going to get an error message. So you can see I've got a maximum limit of 29 layers. Now, for most artwork, 29 layers is more than enough, but if you have an older iPad, especially the older iPad Airs, you might only be able to get 9 layers. So the best way to overcome this issue is to slightly crop the artwork here. And you can do that by going to the wrench, going to the preferences, going to canvas, crop and resize. And if you just shrink this size here just a little bit, there we go. Then we'll click done. And then if I open the layers panel again, you can see I can create a few more layers. And even though I only shrunk the canvas a little bit, it was able to give me quite a few more layers. And I think that pretty much wraps it up. I think I've covered everything here. If you have any questions, you're welcome to message me directly. And whether you bought the kit on Etsy or on Gumroad, the best way to reach me is to just send me a message on Etsy. And that's because I have the Etsy app on my phone, so when you message me there, it makes my phone ring like I'm getting a phone call, and I can usually help you right away.